we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the purpose of this meeting is to conduct board business. The meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through the district website. And this meeting is being presented via Zoom. It's not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. And would like to, Director Jeffries, would you like to share our vision and mission statement?
Okay. Our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission, that was our vision, our mission, in connection with our community, the Sequim School District empowers staff to inspire hope, provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives.
Thank you. And our fabulous Vice President, would you like to do our land acknowledgement?
I'm pleased to do our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we stand on. The Sequim School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. The Lower Elwha tribe located in Port Angeles, Washington, the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe located in Sequim, Washington, and the Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe located in Kingston, Washington. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and the district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you. And I do want to acknowledge that we do have Director Halverson, who's here remotely via Zoom. And I know Director Roca is going to be joining us shortly at an event to go to for his kiddo. And so he'll be joining us shortly. So, but we do have a quorum present. And with that, I think that's going to bring us to, we have a special presentation today. So we're gonna pass it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to be here. We're really excited about things that are going on with our music in our band program. We have 148 students currently in our bands, and we will continue to grow, and we're excited about that. So we're having some successes, and we thought it would be nice to share a little bit of that. So we're going to have these guys play a little bit, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing. And in addition to that, we had, on the day that they performed, we had about 60 plus students performing at Soul Ensemble in Port Angeles, which was almost the same amount of students combined for all of the schools. So that was pretty awesome to have that level of participation. We are greatly respected for that, and there are other directors and bands that are wanting to do the same to encourage to get more kids participating in that. So we're glad to be on that front. And we also had a brass ensemble from the high school that was also did an amazing job, did really well. There was quite a bit of competition on that. There was competition for these guys too, but they missed the brass ensemble missed it by just about that much to get to go. So, but we will still have them, play and perform. And one of the things that the adjudicator that was there, Dr. It's the Dr. Kent from the University of Washington. He was there adjudicating, and he was very, very excited about what we're doing and what's going on. And one of the questions that he asked us and that he said was, guys, it's really important. He said, where are you guys going to? Well, it was his wife actually that was adjudicating, but they were both there. Amazing professional musicians. And one of the questions that they asked was, well, we want you to make sure you get out there and play, and that this is not the end, that, people need to hear, what you're doing. And so we had a very interesting reply, or one of the funny things that kind of happened was we said, well, where do you see yourself playing? And they were thinking about community and whatever. And Anton here very smartly and quickly said, stay. And impeccable timing. So I'll get out of the way and let these guys, Kimberly, Alex, say hi to everybody and let them know what you're doing.
Hi, we're gonna be playing Take a Chance by Lenny Meathouse. Fun. Yep, this is Abraham, Anton, Ben, Michael, and on drums, Audrey.
All right.
All right. So much, everybody. We're really glad to share this with you guys, and we have we're hoping to, we have a long-standing tradition here in swim with our bands, and we want to keep that going. We have a festival coming up that we'd like to get back to. We've been doing that since 2003, and I think we only missed 1 year with that Lytlehampton Jazz Festival, and so we're hoping to get the kids back to that, and that'll be later in April. So we're really hoping to get them, send them down to that. This is we've got a great group of students, and super proud of these guys, for sure. I still remember them somewhere, So it's fun to go back and look. But thank you for letting us play for you guys tonight, and much appreciated.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Director Pickens and myself are expert saxophone players. I was alto and tenor. You did basically alto.
Just tenor.
Just
Just
tenor.
tenor.
And
Much respect to the altos.
although we can't really make decisions, I think probably could agree, they're pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So-
Yeah.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
We'll let you know how it turns out over at CW.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Keep it up.
That baritone sax, sure, the sound.
Good job, drummer
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, is there any objection to the approval of our minutes, the agenda, and the consent agenda?
No objection.
Hearing none, we will consider all three of those approved. And I do want to note that I do know that we have a retirement that we just approved, so congratulations for one of our staff members retiring. That's excellent and exciting news, so. I certainly wish you well as you transition out of, I'm sure you'll be involved in education anyway, right? It's hard to get fully away, so. Yeah, so, but congratulations. Yeah. Yeah.
I just would like to say that on my arrival, Dr. D was one of the first staff members to step out and welcome me and just kind of give me some encouragement, thumbs up when things were getting rolling. And so I really appreciated that. So you've made a difference right down to the last minute. And, you know, all the students are so fortunate to have been able to go through your tutelage with them. So I wish you both a wonderful time of retirement because it is something special, especially I hear the fall when everyone else is planning up. And you're a free bird.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. All right. And that's gonna bring us to our public comments. And we have either in-person public comments or virtual public comments. And in-person public comments, we use the sign-up sheet located at the table. And live virtual public comments, you would use the raise hand feature of the within the Zoom application. So, and we do not have any in-person public comments. If you are attending the meeting virtually and would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom. Not seeing any raised hands, so we will go ahead and close that portion of the meeting. And that's going to bring us to our student board representatives. Welcome, and Caleb, would you like to start?
Okay, first, just want to say I'm really glad that the band program's up and running again. I know COVID really hit a big impact on it, probably the most of any club, I'd say. We did like a 75% reduction in numbers, and yeah, but good to see they're doing well again. First, I just wanted to say I got an email from Andres Logan, who is the WASDA's student legislative representative person. He coordinates all the student stuff. And he sent out an email for special student sessions that will take place at the Capitol Hill. So I think it would be a good opportunity for the Star and I to register in those, but I wanted to make sure first that we don't have any like conflicting plans with that. Pre-registration is due tomorrow for that. And I think it'd be a good opportunity for us.
Yeah,
It's all good?
yeah. Yep. What's that?
Already been done.
It's already been done.
Oh, it's already been
They're
done.
already
Okay.
registered. Yep.
Cool.
So, yeah, thank you for having that on your radar for sure. I think it's important to have that networking. Those folks.
You remember the times on those?
I have it on the email somewhere, not off the top of my
Like
head.
there's one in the morning with Chris Reichtal.
I believe so, yeah, that sounds
And in
right.
the afternoon with the governor.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think so.
Were there others?
I think there might have been one on Sunday. Not sure.
Probably because there's a lot of sessions. It's like, can you, well, maybe Tracy, do you have that information forwarded to us, I guess, because so we know how to help arrange and
Yeah. So
make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And then also, last Monday, we had our first student advisory council with the superintendent at the school, and I think it went pretty well. We had a really good turnout, around 20 students, and they brought up a lot of topics that we weren't able to like all pinpoint. That being said, our time was rather limited because homeroom only lasts 30 minutes. And we weren't able to have this one this week either because President's Day meant no school yesterday, which is when we have our homerooms. So we have one scheduled for next Monday, but as of 5 minutes ago, I also just realized that we're going to be gone next Monday. So we're going to try working something out to see if we can have an alternative set up. If it's possible without the superintendent, maybe we can take like minutes or anything.
I've already gotten a stand-in.
You do, all right.
Yes, so I think we're all organized to run.
All right, but yeah, I think that will be really good for generating new student ideas to bring into the school. And especially the middle school too. We talked a bit about the middle school and how we can like help promote them to make the high school better as well. So I think it's gonna be good to find new insights on how to improve the school. That's all I got today.
Thank you. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to remind you that senior class plays on March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at 6 p.m. at the auditorium. Please come and support the senior class in their first play. The SHS leadership team is happy to announce that SHS has got a talent. Talent show is coming very soon. Tryouts are on March 9th and 10th after school in the cafeteria. And the talent show dates are March 24th at 6 p.m. and March 25th at 2 p.m. SHS had over 400 students that make the first semester honor roll. The ASB and leadership team will make a celebration wall in the age voting hallways to celebrate their achievements. A major congratulations to our SHS girls basketball team who finished second at district and are the 8th seed in the state tournament. This Friday, February 24th, they will play Ellensburg High School, which is the #1 seed. And spring sports start Monday, February 27th. Athletics around campus are very excited for that. And congratulations to our mock trial club who has qualified for state tournament. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and that is going to move us to our reports to the board. We're going to start off with our capital projects update. I believe we have Chris attending with us virtually.
Yes, good evening. All right, I wanted to first kind of make a statement. I just noticed while I was watching the owl go back that Connect 4 behind you happens to be my youngest son's favorite game. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But today I wanted to focus on for the capital projects. One of the specific things, actually, that ironically, I watched a couple people making motions with their arms. And one of the things I want to talk about was the projects we've got going for the HVAC upgrades for both OPA as well as Sequim High School. It's been a long time we've talked about these projects moving forward. It's been a lot of information gathering, a lot of investigation to go into them, and now we're working into actually moving into design starting here this month, as well as looking at targets for installation of dates through 2023. One of the things that we wanted to really focus on, especially with what happened over the winter, was with what interim solutions we can put into place to help with the heating situation that's at the high school while we go with a full long-term solution, which is a replacement of all of the units through the schools. One of the things I wanted to kind of bring to everybody's attention and just to be aware of as this starts to flush itself out is it's an extensive amount of work to be doing that. We have to look at replacing all of these units, pulling them off of the schools, putting them on the schools, and being aware of how that's going to disrupt and interrupt the education of the students. Right now, the conversation had been stepping around doing this explicitly during the summer. but we're actually looking, because of some lead time issues that we're having, that it would actually be better off to look at a continuous, it's staged installation, and that's all in development. We'll be able to give a lot more information as to what that means, and we'll be bringing on these conversations to the facility administration so we can actually have this conversation. But yeah, for 2 years now that we've, the year or so we've been working on this, this has been the biggest priority project. It is the largest project in scale that's going to happen for this school. And it is going to touch every corner of every one of the facilities. So this is starting, and I welcome any conversation, questions that get thrown our direction, needing to be answered, or what this actually will mean for what you'll be dealing with. You'll have some construction, you'll have noise, there'll be debris, there'll be lay down areas that we'll have to take care of and be aware of on how that's going to impact students. And it's going to be, originally was intended to be about a 2-year process, and it probably still will be at least 18 months. So this is going to start to see, everybody's going to start to see a lot of physical activity that we've been talking about going to happen. And I want to make sure that everybody's aware that if you have any questions about that, or if you see something that you want to know about it, send information my way. I have no problem explaining it to any of the facility staff or even the public. Second, for OPA, I'm glad to see the band program going in. That was a wonderful performance. My daughter's actually in jazz band as well at her high school, so that was very interesting. That was lovely to see. And I've been in the schools classrooms for the music department, and that is one of the items that we're targeting getting completed first and foremost, as well as the gymnasium, which has had constant problems with the cooling at OPA. So both of those are actually prioritized to get moving forward on separate tracks. The high school and the OPA are actually running on 2 separate tracks. When we put them out to solicitation in December, we contemplated award to 2 different contractors, ended up going to one who happens to have a mechanical engineer who has worked on the school districts before and has worked in Sequim High School. He did the replacements in 2016, so he has intimate knowledge of a lot of the facilities and the way the systems were installed. So that is giving us a little bit of a leg up on being efficient in our approach to procurement and designing these replacements. The second item I wanted to kind of address is the system-wide low voltage upgrades. That was the other major contract that went out, and we've finished negotiations on that contract. Investigation will be starting here in the next week or 2. And at this point, this will actually become a lot more direct conversation with the entirety of the school district as to what systems are going to be replaced, because it'll affect all 5 schools over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. These were originally spread across all 4 tiers of projects. So we're really looking at what makes sense to go in first to build on and stack onto the existing systems, starting with the ones that are the most stressed, and looking at which ones can survive the longest without replacement and not having issues with compatibility of these new technologies as they get implemented. So these 2 major projects are moving forward, that you'll see a lot more motion of actual activity going in with the schools. And that will have the biggest impact to how operations will happen, and conversations with Superintendent Regan as well as the project team are ongoing on that. And we're going to be diving into some pretty deep items here in the next, say, 30 to 45 days to really decide which direction and what facilities in what order are going to be impacted by these installations. Above and beyond that, we have one of the, well, I should say it's above and beyond that. One of the things that we talked about through the winter was the interim solution on the surveillance. One of the major components that's going to be installed in this is the complete overhaul of all the surveillance through the district at all 5 schools. We're going to be putting that on the market here with this design going in the next 2 to 3 months, shooting for partial installation, starting at least with one facility coming this summer, in order to take advantage of rebates and take advantage of programs that are available for additional funding to supplement and allow us to really stretch everything we can out of the capital projects levy. I'll be above and beyond that. We'll be looking at the replacement of the fire alarm this summer for Helen Haller. which is a major undertaking as well. That one cannot be done during the school year because that would put there's going to be open spaces pretty much throughout the entire facility. So we'll have to start having conversations on how that will affect anything that maybe summer programs will actually be impacted and affected by that. And we'll start having those conversations here probably in the next 30 to 60 days. In general, we're pretty much ahead of where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of 2023. We got through the January and February goals, and now we're in a situation of really balancing the question of these major purchases, where it's going to put a real strain a real decision. We're going to have to lay down some real decisions on what is the most effective expenditure of funds against a return on investment, especially with things like long lead times and materials, vendor issues we're finding, especially in the HVAC and the electrical worlds, as well as escalations in the general overall construction industry. And that's all. Want to open that up to questions.
I'd just like to make a clarification of something you shared, Chris. The lead times we're finding right now, we've just gotten word of these, and we haven't even gotten to facilities committee yet, but we're getting returns of 12 months on some of the units. Now, there are other units that we probably could purchase, but 12 months, of course, puts us right out of cycle with our summer work that we had intended. So it's a real challenge. And if winter would pause next year, it wouldn't be such a problem.
I would love it if it could.
Yes.
Questions?
All right, we'll be discussing all of this at facilities committee and kind of going ahead and breaking down what possible avenues could be for this. And then, of course, talk about what purchases we will make in advance. I will say that Winneha's been fantastic working with the contractors around how we can be creative in our thinking and consider different companies that we could be approaching as well. All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to bring us to 8.02, Finance and Enrollment Report. Welcome, Barry.
Okay. Well, we'll look at our fund balance reports, budget status reports for the month of January. And so on our fund balance report, general fund, see our revenues and expenditures, and leaving our ending fund balance at $1,667,092. And our capital projects fund is getting all ready for all of these big things that Chris has been talking about. So there's $2,160,943 in that account. And in debt service, it's just only accruing interest right now, and so it's at $71,275. Our ASB fund is at $458,484, and our transportation vehicle fund is at $1,135,090. That's what we have for the 5 funds. And then if we go to our general fund activity report. This is just what actually comes straight off of the budget status report. And so it breaks down our revenues and our expenditures for the month of January, as well as our year-to-date totals, and then compares it to this month last year in the 21-22 school year, which is in the blue column. And so you can see that our revenues for the month were $3,538,822, and our expenditures for the month were $3,602,385. And so, and then if you scroll over to the end of expenditures, you can see that between what we've actually expended for through the month of January and then what we have encumbered in that column, we're at about 87.58% of our budgeted expenditures for 22-23 school year. And so, of course, most of those accounts, since remember, our salary and benefits, just projected to the end of the school year, through August, actually. And then our last report for budget is our general fund summary. And this is just broken down in different ways. It's got all the same ending balances, but it's broken down so that you can see certificated salaries, classified salaries, benefits, everything that we've spent on supplies and materials, our purchase services, which is everything other than supplies and materials. So that would be like our utilities and our contractual services agreements and the such. And then travel and capital outlay. Any questions on those reports? I also have an enrollment report. So the enrollment report, I have enrollment through February. So as soon as enrollment is counted at the beginning of each month, then I get the report. So it's through February, and right now our kindergarten through 12th grade FTE is 2,504.47 FTE. And then you can see it's broken down by building FTE as well as head count. And remember that we're funded on FTE and not head count. So the notes at the bottom, our enrollment increased 5.56 FTE overall from January to February. And I'm actually pretty pleased with this because it just seems like enrollment has just dropped so dramatically every month over the last few years that this is only 5. So, but overall for the whole year from September through February, our enrollment has dropped 19.3 FTE. So continue to watch this because we're doing our budget, and I can create a lot of different scenarios with a lot of different enrollment numbers. So right now we're working with just rolling all of the classroom totals up and dropping off the seniors and adding in kindergartners. And then if we think that we might lose a few more, then I also have created another document where I've just taken 1 FTE from every class to see what the difference in funding would be just with the, taking away 13 FTE. It's a pretty big difference. So we're just continually watching the enrollment, and we can just keep working with the numbers until we're satisfied with where we think we'll be when we start up school year in September. Any questions?
Question?
I do have one.
Okay.
You were saying that we've seen it drop. Are we anticipating a similar thing next year, or do we think this was an isolated type of drop, or are we unsure? We're just kind of hoping for the best.
Yeah, I think that it's dropped a lot slower than we've seen in previous years. But this is the time of year where it starts to drop off a little bit. It's kind of steady, and then you get to December, and then it does drop a little bit historically every year. So, and then we know that whatever number is in the spring or close to the end of the school year, those will be the students that start our school year. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, and then 8.03, listening session summary.
Okay, so I have a handout for each of you. I have a few for the audience if you'd like. Are you going to be showing it right up here? All right, so as one major part of the 90-day plan of coming into the school district, communication was at the core of it. And so one means to address making sure communication was receiving many different perspectives and touching on many different groups. We dedicated ourselves to a listening tour. So these are the summary results of the listening tour, and we'll just go through page by page. This first page, next, coming up is just a narrative that is describing and my speaking to the community about how I did come out and meet different groups. It outlines what the intention was about receiving perspective, making sure that I was doing more listening than speaking, and also making sure that there was recognition of those who assisted along the way. And I certainly would like to thank Tracy Norman as my assistant and Megan Lake as our communications officer, because they were with me at every single event. And we pulled down reams of notes from every event. And those have all been reviewed and incorporated into the summary tonight. Okay, the next page shows the timeline. So it shows us starting in August. We got underway on August 3rd with listening tour with business owners, all the way to just recently in February, on February 6th. There was the meeting with the Gray Wolf staff, and then it says Thursday, December 9th, but that should say February 9th. We had the student leadership come together over at the leadership class. So there's been a variety of interface along the way. Okay, this next slide is important because this is truly a global summary of reading each of the notes. And I just would like to show you, this folder is filled with all the notes. Okay, and we went through and literally read each one, circled things, named themes that we saw as being repetitive so that we could make an overall summary. And this is what it is. So we've used this Venn diagram to show that we have staff and community themes that came, but then there is the common zone where we heard similar things from both parties. And let's just look at that common zone first. There's a real interest that belonging be a focus for our school district and evidence of where that already exists. And I'll tell you that students are who we're turning our attention to now, starting the advisory council. I've been to leadership classes to speak with students. I'll be out in other schools as well. Students absolutely prioritize belonging, but feel that they do often. But there are challenges as well. Infrastructure comes up from every corner of the campuses, and so that needs to be at our front and center. Communication has been outlined as being very important, and when it works well, people put it up as a place of pride, and when it doesn't work, they're sure to comment on the shortfall. Housing and affordability for our economy is something that does affect our school district. It's hard for people to consider coming to work in a place they can't find a home. It also is a struggle for families who are trying to live in an environment where they can have a consistent, sustainable home to live in. And I think we all recognize that. Passing a bond came up from both groups. I also will say the students talk about that as well. And then trust as being a foundational value that we all hold. So then you see the differences and things that came up. And it's not that each of the groups never mentioned these things, but they just came up enough for us to call it a theme. So staff is very concerned about funding and how school funding works and funding to have a sustainable school program. Technology that meets their needs and is able to be relied upon. Staffing levels are a great concern to our staff. They want to be sure they have enough people to do the job and do it well. Student behavior has become a theme that we talk about quite frequently, and how to not only address student behavior, but so many staff members talk about how do we grow our ability to work with student behaviors as much as correct them, and also reward what's going right, because we have so many students who do the right thing. Morale is really important for all of us, and we'll make sure we add that either. And then curriculum, making sure that teachers are involved in curriculum selection, making sure that it is meeting the needs of students, and staff would like to have considerable input on that, including professional development. The community, very interested in volunteer accessibility, making sure that the COVID recovery is addressing the needs of students who might have lost ground. Half block was absolutely something that came up over and over from the community. I think if we were to invite people now, hopefully we have a different perception of this, because I think it's been not an issue this year. Safety, cameras, training, making sure that's adequate was certainly a thing. Any questions about these? Surprises? No surprise?
Half block methods, been a problem or concern for how long? I don't know if you were part of this picture, but I mean, I've heard decades, but it hasn't changed.
Well, I'd say we are turning the
That's
tide
what I'm
then.
saying.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we're making some headway there. And that's impressive.
Yes.
I would say that half block definitely is getting better this year, but I think it is still a problem. It's not completely eradicated just yet.
I think that it's important that we not put our cart before our horse. So we'll keep our eye out there. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a big difference between the first and follow-up safety meetings that we had. The first meeting was quite a few people, lots of concerns and suggestions, and some people were very upset, some people just very concerned. And I think because of your efforts and the installation of cameras and paying attention to some of the more obvious problems has really made a difference in the response from the community, because the second meeting was totally different, very supportive, and very thank you for getting this done. And I really I think the community is seeing that we are improving things, we're making an effort, which I think is really important.
All right, we'll move on to the next slide. So what this graphic is showing is that as we received information from listening sessions, we didn't just collect it. We tried to take action on items that could be what I would call early changes and modifications. So in this, you'll see that the purple are the issues that came up. And then the green and the black are areas where we tried to do something most immediately, and approximately when we tried to do the thing. So there's always more to do, but I think it's really important the community recognize that we are really going to try to take action, because that is something that I did hear in the listening tours is talk is great, but action is what we want to see. All right. So here come some strengths. These are actually quotes right out of our feedback. So let me talk to you about how we received feedback. We would hold the live session and would take notes on every comment that was made in that session. And then we would send out an anonymous survey, and it would repeat all of the questions that were prompts at the session and allow people to type in their answers. And then we went through every single one of those one by one and capitalized on what theme they were listing. So these are some of those direct quotes. And of course, we've removed anything that might identify where this quote came from, if they named a school or something like that. But what I will say, if you just scan this, what you see right out of the gate is the staff. It's noted over and over again. Also, the way that there's this dedication to students and people working really hard to make a difference by doing A, B, or C. So, you know what I feel is in a school district, your foundation are your students you receive and the people around them taking the care. And when you have that as a foundation in your district, you're going to be all right. And that is exactly what I read in this. A lot of effort there. So on the next slide, I share with you a summary of some of the quotes directly, once again, that relate to challenges that we have. And some of the issues that come up are around funding, of course, for us, around student discipline and behavior and us working with that, the feeling of lack of trust in some cases and needing to really get that back. And then also just around staff capacity. I think there's talk in here and a quote around staff burnout and really being sure that we're paying attention that our facility needs to be up and running to serve those who use it. So I appreciate how candid people were able to be and just tell it like it is from their experience. Surfacing the challenges is what's important, because then you know where to set your sails. All right, so next slide. I know there's a lot to read. It's really around what do you do with all this information once you've collected it? And I would like to introduce to you that in our district, we'll use the assess, plan, and do. We've assessed the situation. We've made immediate plans to do something. Safety and security is one thing. But we now need to plan to do some of the bigger lifts that are cultural in nature, facilities in nature, also morale and trust are huge value issues that we really need to wrestle with. And what we'll do is go through a planning cycle so that we understand what we need to do. And I would say to you in the end, once we've gone through this planning cycle and we start implementing the do, we really need to be thinking about ourselves as realigning. We don't need an entire makeover as a school district. We're doing so much right. We just need to get everything in the right order and get it deployed. And once we do that realignment, and you'll see down there on the right-hand side, it's really recognizing what change is necessary. And I hear this as strategic plan. Everyone recognizes what change needs to happen, but is cautious around, don't throw it all out. Some of it's been great. And then revitalize the areas that need to be. And then we'll review it again and again and again until we feel like we've got it right. Okay, and then my last slide is just simply a thank you. I just want to say that it really has been wonderful to have so many receptive groups. I haven't had a listening session where I felt there was an engagement around it. People took it seriously, wanted to be a part of it. It took longer in some sessions to warm up than others, but once we got going, we had plenty of commentary. And then collecting anonymously after the session was over yielded a lot of great reflection, because sometimes people in the moment don't think of what they want to say. And we've captured it all. So we've got a lot of information to use for our next steps. And another plug for strategic planning. That's where we can put this to action. So I will be bringing these listening tour results to strategic plan so that people are aware of what we've learned from it and what themes are important. And then we'll be working with different groups within the district to help make the plan for what we're going to do.
Excellent.
Thank you. Wow, that's a lot of work. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Thank you very much.
Yes, and shout out
Oh.
to Megan for making it pretty.
We have,
Yeah, she's.
Oh, we got a hand up.
Maren?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciate so much. All of that raw data is wonderful, but it's also overwhelming. And you have put it into such a coherent, lovely format that really helps us move forward and take action. So I really appreciate that, sort of that transformation from data to action. So thank you, Regan.
Well, you're welcome. My pleasure.
And you're gonna
Oh, I
keep the,
I
you're gonna
get
keep
to
the
keep
floor?
talk. All right.
All right, the superintendent report.
Okay, so one update I'd like to give you is about the facilities. You did hear Chris go over some of the different obstacles that we've reached. I do want you to also know we have had an ADA evaluation of our campuses, and we're going to be focused on some things that need to be done. And with thinking about the boardroom being done, there are some immediate ADA issues just for access. So we're going to be taking care of those and then moving forward. But the lead times on equipment, I think that's going to plague us for quite some time. And then finding the labor to do major projects in the summer in 10 weeks, it just doesn't always come to fruition. So what he brought up about disruptions in schools, we really do need to talk about that, because there is a degree to which a school can still function and run, because if it's only a 2 to 5 day in and out, that's one thing. When it becomes a 3-week, 6-week project, different. So we'll be talking about it, facilities, and get back to you with that, along with everyone else here in the audience who'd like to know what's coming. I think that I'd like you to also know that we continue with our budget discussions, and I really look forward to us continuing to carve out what our position is financially so that we can make a clean decision about what we'll need to recommend. And we are receiving intention forms from employees. They were due on Friday. And that has given us some guidance about the number of retirements and the number of resignations that we can expect. So that attrition will be folded into what our budget recommendations are, of course, because we want to make sure that we're not overstating what our concerns might be, but we're also being fair to the system and know what's coming next. I still would say to you that the attrition that we're seeing on those intention forms does not make a significant dent in the concerns that we have. I will say it could be up to about 1.3 million, and we're looking up to 4.7 million for a cut. Okay. So more to come. And I know we're going to talk about Day on the Hill, so we'll leave that there.
All right. Any questions? Okay. So we're talking about Day on the Hill with kind of with legislative priorities, so the agenda items.
Yes.
Specific with that, okay. So, okay. We have some board business. 10.01, first reading and approval, policy 3421, child abuse and neglect.
We move policy 3421, child abuse and neglect, to a second reading.
We have a second.
Yes, a second.
We have discussion. All in favor of moving policy 3421 onto a second reading, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That is unanimous. And 10.02, second reading and approval of policy 3123, withdrawal prior to graduation.
I move that we approve policy 3123 regarding withdrawal prior to separation, prior to graduation.
A second.
Okay. We have discussion on this. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. And next is second reading and approval of policy 3231.
I move that we approve policy 3231, regarding student records.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
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 Okay, that is approved. And second reading of on policy 6900.
Move that we approve policy 6900 regarding facilities planning.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on policy 6900? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
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 Okay, it's approved. And second reading and approval of policy 4200.
Move that we approve policy 4200 regarding parent access and safe and orderly learning environment.
I second.
Okay. And do we have discussion on this one? I think this is more housekeeping, but I think the gray wolf font here, I noticed, I think it's missing a Y.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a major, I think we can just, that's more of a housekeeping charge. All right, all those in favor of approving policy 4200, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and that is approved. It's gonna bring us down to legislative priorities, and we'll also talk a little bit about Day on the Hill, but we also kind of a continuation of our last meeting. We had talked about, I think these items that are listed were ones that I had mentioned at the close of ones we could potentially have positions on as a board of just being in support of those items. And some things may have changed, maybe some not. The way we just had a policy or a cutoff date on Friday. And so some things don't get voted out of committee at all, and that sort of means that they aren't necessarily in play the same way that they were before. But I won't steal too much of Larry's thunder. So Director Jeffries, do you want to?
Well, I don't want to do a whole lot. I do send out regular emails to the board members and to the superintendent, just kind of keeping them updated, mainly on things what I hear from the WASDA about how the bills are going and so on. I will say, yeah, the deadline passed on Friday, where if they're not brought to committee or gone to executive session, they're dropped from the roll. So of the 150 or so bills that WASDA, the Washington State School Board Director Association, was following, almost half of them are gone. didn't make the cut. Now, they could come back possibly if they become necessary for a budget, or sections of the bill can come back and be added to other legislation regarding the budget. And of course, some of those bills will come back pretty much automatically next session, which is a short session. So, we'll see some of these that come up. Special ed funding is still number one, and I think it's consensus, or we've talked about it being number one with the school board too, but or one of our top priorities, let's put it that way. There's a House bill and a Senate bill. They're a little bit different. Right now, the House bill or the Senate bill is the one that seems to be better. It raises the special ed cap to 15% and significantly increases the multipliers, which is a calculation you use for pre-K and for elementary, because some students need more special ed service. It's a little complicated, and I don't fully understand it. The House bill gets rid of the cap altogether, but they lowered the multipliers. So at least from WASD's point of view, they're hoping to get some kind of combo bill that raises the cap and raises the multipliers, but we'll wait and see what happens. Chances are good that they won't fully fund special ed. And part of that also goes because at the federal level, the feds aren't kicking in or helping out. And that would be a significant contribution if they were to also fund this more. And so far, that's not happening. So it looks like a step in the right direction. And just as a reminder to the public and ourselves, we are under obligation by law to provide educational services for all the kids that have special ed IEPs. And I don't know that right now the gap, the funding cap is at 13.5%, and I think we're probably around 15% or so, a little higher, 16%. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Well, how do we fund those kids? Because we're not getting money from the state nor the Fed. It comes out of local levy dollars. So we're hoping that whatever they come up with will help ease that burden and help our kids. I mean, that's what it's all about. Prejudgment interest is just sailing right along. No changes. Public entities like school boards, cities, counties, not-for-profit organizations are really worried about this one because it's essentially, if I understand it right, a fourth grader, something happens in fourth grade and they get hit on the head but don't report it. And then 12 years later, 15 years later, they finally report it. And they win a tort claim. Then the courts could go back to third grade and charge interest on that tort claim all those years, which could be a significant amount of money. Right now, the pushback on it, what I'm hearing from Olympia, the pushback on it is, well, show me where that's ever happened. How much money has Sequim paid on long overdue settlements like that? And that's really kind of hard to come up with and figure out. I don't know if it's ever happened here. So it's.
Well, it leads me to think, why would you need legislation for something that never happens?
Yeah.
I would want to add that today I did submit a letter to Senator Vanderway,
Okay.
and a letter was sent as a draft that we were asked to all review as superintendents. So I did do that and compared it to the letter that we had reviewed as important and sent that away. So
Probably very similar.
yes.
Yeah, I think it's about ready to go on the floor. So hopefully all the senators get such a letter from all the superintendents in the state. We'll see what happens. Transportation bills, they've been scaled way back and they're kind of disappointing, and there may be an increase in transportation funding, but it won't do what we would like it to do. But so that's to be seen. Universal free meals. there's a sense that if it makes it through the legislature, it could get funding, but it also could be cut way back. And I know, but here in the Sequim School District, we have for quite a while had free breakfast. And we pay for that out of levy dollars, correct?
Correct.
There is free and reduced lunch, which is a federal program. But we also make a big effort in the school district, or have in the past, to keep the lunch prices low for those that do have to pay. And that comes out of levy dollars. And we've accumulated a significant debt of people that owed lunch money from days gone by, pre-COVID. It's still on the books. And so it is a challenge, and hopefully this will go through, and hopefully this is another one where they'll make improvements so that maybe we can see it our way clear doing free lunch for, college students. Free breakfast, free lunch for all students, but I can't guarantee that because that takes money. If the state doesn't help us out, that takes money out of our levy project. And then the legislative conference is coming up next week, and I think it sounds like the students have special meetings that they're going to go to. I haven't heard from WASDA which meetings we can go to. It may be that we won't be able to go meet with, all of us might not be able to meet with our legislator because the room's not big enough, or so we should be hearing from WASDA pretty soon who we're going to meet and where and how. That wouldn't stop you necessarily from dropping by and saying to a legislative aide, "Hi, my name's Larry Jeffries. I'm from the Sequim School Board, and just wanted to say hi and let you know who I am. And we're concerned about a few things. Could you pass the word on?" I don't know. They're going to be very, very, very busy because it's also a day when the legislature is in session. So a lot of the representatives and senators will be on the floor voting things, and they can't be in their offices to meet with us. So it's going to be interesting. But it sounds like the Sunday afternoon sessions and meetings are usually very informative, very worthwhile. And you hear from WASA, WASDA, WASBO, OSPI, the governor's office. And then we get together in our regions, and the students get together and decide how things, so it's going to be a busy time. Other things? No. I haven't been down there for like 3 years, so, Eric's been down there more recently, so he'll be hopefully a tour guide, especially where to find parking. That's a big problem on that Capitol campus down there, is finding a place to park. Anything, any questions or concerns or?
That's a lot to keep track of.
Right, I might not have to send you too many more emails, we'll see.
Are we prepared to take positions on the items that are listed, or does anyone have any questions that they wanted, or I know we said we kind of look into it as individual board members, just want to see we could potentially approve them all as a slate unless somebody preferred one to be pulled out.
I mean, I'm fine with all of them. I am not particularly well versed on the last one, the staff mix prototypical model alignment for regionalization. Somehow I have a feeling that maybe is a special interest of yours.
Well,
and I have no reason to oppose it. I don't know that much about it.
I was actually thinking that if we were making a motion to approve that one, it might be simpler and provide more flexibility. Is if that was just simply put that we are supportive of increases to both staff mix funding and regionalization funding. Because that way, yes, we know that it should be increased from what it's paying now. And so I think that might be a simpler way. So the same probably with fully funding special education, especially since there's two different bills. I might suggest, I support fully funding special education. Let's just be clear, but we wouldn't want, because it's a bill that that raises the cap to 15. By that wording, it's like, well, are we opposed to it because it's not fully funding special education? Well, at the end of the day, 15 is much better than 13 and a half. Yes, we want it a little bit higher, but it's not that we're going to oppose if that's the only one left on the table. I don't think it would, or me personally, I would not be an advocate for opposing that one
Right.
because it's not
Right.
worded as fully funding special education. So I would say increase funding for special education and increase funding for regionalization.
Will the same be for student meals too? Because Larry said that although they're talking about, he doesn't think that's fully funded, and that's another free
It's hard to
meals
say. what-
for all students. It's not free meals for all students. Do we still support it if it's increased funding? Because it's the same logic on the other one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
So how would we be expressing our support for these?
So, well, why don't I take a stab at it?
There you go.
If that's okay, because I did find out in a small board setting, it is okay for the chair to make a motion as well. So I would just move that we approve for these, what is it, 5 items that our school board is in support of. These five items specifically. Oh, the first one makes it a little. Hold on, let me think about it for a second. That we are in support of increased funding for school meals, special education, and staff mix and regionalization funding from the state. That we are also in favor of simple majority for bonds in school construction. And we're opposed to legislation that would end the transitional kindergarten program within public net, or within K-12. Yeah, within K-12 public education. And I would much appreciate it.
I will second.
Did you capture all that, Tracy?
Simple majority of bonds in
Simple majority for bonds and school construction.
school construction, thank you.
Just, yeah, that's how it's worded there.
And opposed to
Opposed to ending,
Legislation ending
Transitional.
yeah,
got it.
with the caveat, the intent of that is if there's legislation that would drastically change that program, that would essentially make it extremely difficult to, if actually impossible almost, to still have those programs within public ed. So, so that's a little bit of a nuance here, but we know it's a great program to have here, so.
We may have some other nuances because some of those bills are no longer viable. Viable. They're not, we've been told.
I believe that the transitional kindergarten is still out there.
It may be out there someplace, but
I think it was referred to a,
we'll have to look,
Ways and Means.
see if we can find it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we still can't be for it, because it's gonna come up again.
Yeah,
And I didn't mention it, but I mean, at some point we would, as a board, sit down, what would we like to see laws that advocate for next year, next session?
that's coming up and that,
May 12th is the deadline,
yeah. So,
and we may want to schedule meetings with our own legislative representatives to come talk to us, or we go talk to them about our concerns after the session is over, when they have a little, and after they've gotten back from the fishing trips. Because it's a really, really busy time for them.
Yeah.
It's the best time to talk to them. Sit down serious is in between sessions.
Any other discussion on these items?
Yes,
My only
yes.
Go ahead, Barn.
Hi. Yeah, I just had a couple of things to say. One is that my understanding at the last WASDA checkup, Marissa suggested that the simple majority for bond was not going to make it past the cutoff. So my understanding is that that may already be dead. That was the last I heard. And the other thing I wanted to mention was just, I do find it interesting, the opposing transitional kindergarten one, because when I reviewed that, it's really about a change in funding and design of the program. So I do agree with your position on it, but it's kind of it's a very complex bill. So those are my comments. It's just that there's some here that may already be gone and to be where we need to put our energies.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely need to be strategic about how to approach it. And that's where like the school bond one, that, I mean, I am super optimistic about fully funding special education or increased funding about special education. I don't have that anywhere near that same level of optimism for simple majority for bond, but I think it's still important for us to as a board say that, you know, we're certainly behind that, and then gives us the ability to advocate for it.
So if we, if this motion is adopted, then do we pass this information on to our legislators somehow? Or is this just basically a matter of public record that this is our position on these issues, or?
Yeah, so, yes, to all of those. I think we could take more formal action of submitting a letter potentially to our legislators, but it also would give whether or not it's myself as board president or Larry as our legislative rep, the ability to reach out and or testify and say that we are speaking on behalf of the Sequim School Board.
Okay.
And so.
Or maybe even a bill that's been pulled, you can find out who the sponsor was, and we write them a letter saying, we encourage you to resubmit this bill at the next session, because we fully support it, that kind of thing. There is sometimes bills, again, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. On the WASDA call, they did talk about, sometimes bills do come back when they say it's, I forget what the term is, but something that justifies it as being, I don't know if there's financially Needed for the budget.
needed for budget purposes, but
It becomes part of the budget bill
yeah.
instead of bill on its own.
But WASDA said basically that it's very, like, the standard is not like something that the bill has to have this in order to qualify. It's very political in nature. So essentially, if they want it.
They'll figure out a way to get it in. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so again, not that it happens often, but it's still possible, so.
So we vote.
Yeah, any other? Oh, I did want to address, I know Maren brought it up, I just want to make sure we're kind of all on the same page regarding transitional kindergarten, because that one is, it is nuanced the way that they're wording it, but the intent of my motion is that we do want to bring that, bills that would prevent us from bringing that to our district is what we're opposed to, so, and I think that's, keeping it that simple is better.
I think in general, we can be in favor of these. We have to watch out. Sometimes they write bills with such strange language. Yeah. That what you think it's doing, it's not doing at all. Yeah. And I'm not an expert on that, so that leaves that up to WASDA, WASBO, WEA, League of Education Voters, other people that understand these things. Because there are people that understand these things. I ain't one of them.
sometimes all it takes is a certain amendment to it. And that might change, take a bad bill, make it good, or vice versa, so. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think maybe what we can do, I can do some research on the bills, you do some research on those bills, see what we can find, and then come up with a comment or a letter or an email saying the board, the SQUIM board directors, SQUIM school district board directors are in favor of this. I didn't hear that we're gonna be like opposing anything. Well,
Oh,
except for
Prejudgment interest.
judge, the
yeah.
prejudgment interest, we're opposing that, so.
Mhm.
So I am receiving indication that prejudgment interest is heating up in committee this week. So what I'll do is send an email out with a contact so that you can reach out individually. If we do have that opposition, can you speak to that?
But also mention on that, that the Washington Risk Pool Group, that's our risk insurance agency, and Clear Risk, which is the other insurance agency, are both strongly against this bill. So there's a lot of pushback. And it just sounds like it's a matter of getting certain legislators with power to understand what this could do to us. Maybe it hasn't done this yet, but it could do this, and if it did, it would really hurt the school district. I mean, I'm all in favor of somebody, if we're negligent in some way and somebody gets hurt and so on, and we know about it right away, and we take care of it. We, you know, they should be awarded some kind of monetary award because of this, fine. But the problem is bringing it up to us, 15, 20 years later, which happens. When trauma happens, people, let it hide, and they don't talk about it until they're in their early 20s. I think the bill goes up to 21, some things all the way up to 21. And I understand that. Then it's something that we didn't know even happened because nobody told us. And now we're on the hook for a whole lot of money. Now, if they told us something happened and we didn't do anything, now that's a whole different story. Am I speaking out of turn there?
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sitting next to one, so.
Yeah, I have opinions, but I'll.
It's one of those things you gotta,
The
it's a
bill,
concern.
the bill definitely has some problems as written. Now, I would also say it certainly does not alleviate us from the responsibility as a district to ensure that, of course, that there is, adequate steps and measures taken for the safety of all students, as we've committed time and time again. It's just a matter of, if there's an issue, we need, 20 years later, sometimes is, that can be problematic just with funding and, so. Okay, any, I believe, we already voted on that, so that's, then we will just, our next time we'll all be together will be on the Day on the Hill. And I'm looking forward to seeing y'all there.
Do we have a study session coming up anytime soon?
March 1st, which is sooner than it seems.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that today. Next week.
Yeah, so. Okay,
So I'll be sending you all an email about prejudgment.
all right. Anything else in the order? All right, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Get well, Maren.
Yeah.
I think we have some things to sign.